Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Dutchmen Discussions for episode 10. I'm Mike Freeman, Director of Athletic Communications, and today's guest is LVC Head Athletic Trainer Chuck Yasinski. We'll be discussing how the athletic trainers have been preparing for student athletes to return, how different things will look when practice starts, and also we'll talk about our two new athletic trainers. So we hope you enjoy Head Athletic Trainer Chuck Yasinski. Okay, we are now joined by LVC Head Athletic Trainer Chuck Yasinski. Chuck, it's great to see you. How's everything been going these past many months, and how are you and your family doing?
Hey, good morning, Mike. We're doing well. I still think back to that day, mid-March, it might have been a Thursday, when our assistant AD, Stacy Hollinger, came around and said, hey, they're canceling spring sports. I was covering tennis with a student, and we were kind of blindsided, really. I mean, we knew that things were kind of ramping up with COVID and everything, but I don't think I realized it was going to go to that extent. And then obviously everything that followed was just a whirlwind, obviously from us. Now, personally, my wife works from home, so it didn't really change her schedule, but obviously with me being home, we had to work out two different kind of work areas. I kind of took the kitchen table, she had the office. Now she has diabetes, so the whole COVID thing with pre-existing conditions kind of hit home a little bit. So we were very careful. Our sons, who are grown, kind of stayed away until some of those initial restrictions were lifted. And then my oldest son, Wyatt, who lives in Virginia, was working from home, so he decided to come kind of live with us for kind of weeks on end and work from home from our home. So that added 3 people in the mix. So we had 3 kind of workstations set up. And it's a little different, obviously, when it's just, you have your empty nesters and your children are kind of out of the house and then they come back for extended periods of time. It does throw things off, in addition to everything with COVID and the pandemic and staying from home, then we have that thrown in the mix. But obviously we were glad to see him, to know that he was safe. My other son's a teacher. He works in Carlisle, so he had the summer off. So he did a lot of, when the school year ended, he was living in his apartment in Carlisle, and they were doing Zoom meetings with the kids. And then over the summer, he was taking classes, so he would come and visit. So in some ways it was nice because things were slowed, the pace was slower, so we could kind of obviously spend time with each other. And I'm sure I hear that from a lot of people, families getting to spend time with their kids, even though there were other commitments, like obviously if the kids are in school, they had to do the Zoom meetings with their teachers and home education. And I'm sure that was a bit of a difference in some families, but for us, it was nice kind of just reconnecting a little bit.
That's good. Yeah, I'm sure it was different being empty nesters to having your son back at home. You got another mouth to feed now. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, that was definitely. Now he's nice enough where he shared in the cost of groceries, because obviously he's 26-ish, so he obviously has a different kind of metabolism than we do, and he's obviously, maybe eating like 5 different kind of times during the day, where my wife and I might just, the basic 3. So yeah, so the grocery bill definitely went up.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I'm glad everybody's safe in your family. And like you were talking about, you were at tennis that mid-March day, and I was over at softball. I think they were playing York, and it was funny. We were following Twitter and everything, and then all of a sudden I see all these people start to talk about, the season's canceled, and then we still had another game against York to play. So I went down and told Scott Adams, our head softball coach, and he was like, oh, okay. But then we just kept playing, and then I think it started to rain. But it was just an interesting dynamic, how everything just, like you said, we kind of knew that it was going to happen. We just didn't really know when. So anyway, so I have a few questions to ask you, just about how everything is going to look different, how it already looks different here at LVC. So, how have you and the athletic trainers been preparing for this fall and beyond?
Yeah, so just like everywhere on campus, we are in full COVID mitigation mode, I guess you might say. We've had countless meetings with our team physicians. And we had this group called the COVID Action Team, which include the doctors, athletic administrators, the athletic trainers. There was a coach involved as well as a student athlete. So we wanted to get everyone's perspective on when information was coming out from the NCAA, and at times it was coming out several times a week, you know, updates and stuff. And we were getting stuff from the Athletic Trainer Organization, NATA. And obviously we were watching the CDC, and we were trying to read, digest, compile, and try to figure out how this affects athletics, or how it would affect athletics heading into the fall season. So we spent a lot of meetings and a lot of time putting together what we figured would be protocols, procedures, guidelines, and trying to work it out. And then when things would change, restrictions would, you know, would be different. Then we had to adjust what we kind of just already created. So it was an ongoing process of just constant communication and deliberation, and it got a little fatiguing. And that was kind of the running joke, right? Guidelines fatigue, because we'd be talking about things, and the guidelines obviously weren't just one page at times. They were multiple pages and things you had to think, well, what does this mean specifically? So I think we're in a good place right now with athletics. I mean, we have a plan, you know, in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be September 14th. That's when we're going to begin this phase 1 plan for the teams to begin some semblance of team activities.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, September 14th has been a date that's been thrown around for a while now, and I'm just hoping, you know, all right, let's just get there, and like you said, phase 1, and kind of go from there. But it'll just be nice just to see student athletes. You know, the sophomores and juniors will be back, just to see everybody, like you said, do something that looks like a practice that we haven't seen since March. It'll definitely be refreshing. And my next question, you know, how will things, you know, what's going to look different in the gym and in practices this fall?
Yeah. So, you know, for the longest time, we were just talking about, you might say, generalities, things in general, how they would look. And then as we got closer, as July came and obviously August, we started to, as we like to say, got into the weeds a little bit and talked about the specifics. So if we talk about our area, the AT clinic, you know, we have some new policies and procedures in place, obviously to keep everyone safe, not just the student athletes, but obviously the staff, athletic training staff, as well as anyone else who's involved in athletics that's in the building. So number one, we have like a new scheduling procedure where the word is out, where we have our student athletes kind of get on the computer and schedule a pre-appointment time to see one of the ATs if they have an injury issue. So as you know, before it was kind of an open door policy. Athletes could come and go. We were available from this time to this time. So, and those kind of things are sometimes really ingrained in how we do things. And in these new ways, this new approach takes an adjustment. It's going to be an adjustment for the athletes as well as the staff to kind of get on board with it. But we're going to have appointment times. So that's one of the big changes. And then obviously when people come into the clinic, like I said, we're in mitigation mode. So we're going to make sure they're wearing masks. Only one person, we have 6 tables. So we're trying to limit the volume in the AT clinic. So, you know, we're only going to have probably around 6. And if one person's on a bike or a piece of equipment, it could be 7 or 8 people, athletes in our AT clinic at one time. And then obviously disinfecting, sanitizing everything that gets used, you know, after every use. And at the end of the day, we're going to make sure that we're fogging with our disinfectant sprayer the entire room down, so that, you know, we're making sure that there's going to be no spread of the virus. So that's just in the AT clinic. As far as the practice fields and the gyms, every team is going to have a slightly different approach. You know, obviously different team sizes. The larger teams, football, for example, has to spread out on more fields. You know, and the word is, obviously, when you're outside, there's less of a risk, but we still want people obviously following the guidelines and everything that's in place. So, primarily they're going to be masked. If there are some activities like conditioning where they can socially distance, obviously they can do it without the mask, but for the most part, people are going to be masked when they're participating in this phase one stage coming up. And like I said, outdoor teams will have a little bit of an advantage because obviously more room to spread out. The indoor teams like volleyball, and then obviously when winter comes, the basketball teams and ice hockey teams, they'll have a kind of a different approach as well. But yeah, it's going to be a mitigation mode approach, safe approach, and we're going to kind of follow the guidelines, obviously, that we're hearing from everyone, not only LVC and the general student population, but the CDC and the NCAA.
Yeah, wow. It sounds like you guys got everything covered. It'll definitely be interesting if the NCAA kind of decides to play the fall season, beginning in the winter or the spring. So I'll be joining you. I'll find a couch here at LVC and just kind of stay over a couple of nights a week. It's going to be busy for both of us, but I mean, I'm not complaining. I kind of want that at this point. And then, so you have two new athletic trainers. Trevor and Emily have gone elsewhere. Can you talk about the two new trainers?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. We added two new athletic trainers. Their names are Cheyenne Wallace and Zach Kelly. And they both obviously bring different things to the table. Cheyenne's from West Virginia University. And she kind of accepted this position because she's looking to gain some more experience, wants to work with wants to continue to work with the athletic population. Her goal is to become a physician's assistant. So in a couple years, she's going to be looking to go back to school. And then Zach Kelly, he's from Towson. He has a strong lacrosse background. That was one of his favorite assignments when he was there. He's taking an online master's program. So he's also looking for some time just to kind of get things in order, have time to study while also staying active in the profession. You add Cheyenne and Zach to the existing mix of myself, Kyle Fisher, and Megan Streisel. And we have a very varied group of people with different experiences. I mean, I'm the oldest of the group. So, at some point they're going to put me out to pasture, but we are in good hands because the group that we have are very smart and they're genuinely kind. And I couldn't be happier to be working with that group of people.
That's awesome. I'm excited to meet both of them. And it's going to be a crazy year, I think. But, everybody is adjusting and, you guys have been working tirelessly since March to try to get everything going. So thank you from student athletes to you. I want to thank you for coming on here. This was awesome. And, I'll see you around soon. I'm here now, but I'll probably see you next week or something, hopefully.
Yeah. Good talking to you, Mike.
You too, Chuck. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you to Chuck Yasinski for joining us on episode 10 of the Dutchmen Discussions. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. We hope you all tune in to our next episode. Everybody stay safe and go Dutchmen.